going on, guys? It's your boy. Welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be doing a full-length movie review for the Pixar movie Elio that is currently out in theaters. This is an original movie. I really enjoyed it. I think that for the most part, Pixar is an incredible film studio, and I will actually have to say this before I get too far into this review. I have the Pixar lamp literally tattooed on my body. It is my favorite film studio, so I might be slightly biased, but this movie did make me cry. It made me laugh. Let's talk about it.
Modern movie review.
Okay, so I am going to have to dive into spoilers to kind of talk about some of the best things about this movie. So before I do that, I'm going to go to an issue with just kind of... Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and give some of my spoiler-free thoughts about this movie before I dive into spoilers, because they kind of drop a bomb on you very early on in this movie that I was not expecting. And it does absolutely kind of make the whole plot of the movie make a lot more sense and makes it a lot more emotional. I thought that the trailers for this movie didn't look particularly great, and they immediately shocked me right off the bat. So, to give some of my spoiler-free thoughts, I think that for the most part, the animation style here is absolutely beautiful. I think that a lot of times Pixar kind of gets discredited when it comes to their animation style because they like to do the same 3D animation style for every single movie, but they've absolutely mastered it. And I think that there are some sequences in this movie, obviously when he's in outer space and he's doing some of the stuff with the aliens and stuff, that is very vibrant and cool. But there's also some stuff on Earth, like there's a sequence where he is on the beach late at night, and as somebody who loves going to the beach at night, they perfectly nailed the way that the waves look with the moonlight shining down. It's absolutely beautiful. A lot of the stuff with the stars at night, it's just a very beautifully animated film, and I really love that. I think that that is something that I wasn't fully expecting going into this movie that I really enjoyed. I think that the story is incredibly emotional, something that you do kind of come to expect with Pixar, and the way that it is emotional does kind of catch me off guard a little bit, but I just absolutely love this film. I think that overall it does an incredible job kind of showcasing the importance of family, and after the Lilo and Stitch live action that came out last month, kind of throwing away that a little bit, I'm glad to see Pixar is kind of picking up the slack from where Disney left off. Even if you have a broken family, even if your family isn't as big, or you kind of have issues and falling outs with some of your family members, you still are family at the end of the day, and you guys can still love each other and have this really important relationship. And that's one of the main themes of Elio that I really enjoy. And then another thing that I like about this film is it kind of takes the scientific question that we used to have of like, are we alone in this giant galaxy and universe? Is there other people out there? Are there aliens somewhere? Can we communicate with them? And I like the way that they kind of pose that are we alone question into Elio, who's a boy who kind of feels very lonely for the majority of his life, and he kind of feels like an outcast, and for some reason he doesn't really fit in necessarily. And I like that he's able to turn that are we alone into more of a scientifical thing, and then him exploring the galaxy feels very symbolic. I really liked this film. Okay, but now to get into spoilers, right off the bat, this movie absolutely shocked me because it is revealed really early on into the movie that the main character, who I thought was going to be his mom in this movie that we're seeing in all the trailers, the one who's like really stressed out and doesn't really know a lot about parenting and is like really struggling to raise this kid, I thought, okay, well, it's going to be a single mother. That is actually his aunt. And she is to take Elio in because his parents died very tragically. They don't really get into why they died or how they died, but both of his parents died at the same time. And now this aunt is having to take on the responsibility of kind of being a mother for her nephew, Elio, and she's really struggling. She was trying to find ways to kind of like make him fit in and kind of try to like build this relationship with him, but she's really struggling because she works on a military... I'm really confused because it's a military base, but it appears to be like NASA, so it's some kind of like space exploration field. And from my understanding, she's basically like air traffic control, but for like satellites and stuff. I thought it was really cool. I thought that was very interesting. But she's really struggling because she wants to get these promotions and she really wanted to be an astronaut, but she kind of had to put her life on pause so that she could become this like mother figure for Elio. And something that I really like about this movie, and something that Pixar does really well, is kind of showing different perspectives. Because from Elio's perspective, she's kind of selfish because she doesn't want to learn his own language that he has, because when he was a child, he kind of made his own language and his parents learned it for him so that they could have communications in code, and it was really cool. But to Elio, he's like, well, she doesn't want to learn my language. She doesn't want to get to know me. She doesn't like the fact that I really want to get abducted by aliens, and he kind of feels very neglected. And for her, she's constantly taking away some of the opportunities that she has and kind of having to like put them to the side because she has to raise Elio, and she's trying her best to do what she can, but Elio's kind of causing trouble at school, and he's skipping classes, and he's being very like mischievous. And I like that we can kind of see it from both perspectives of, well, Elio is kind of ungrateful, and she is kind of like not doing the best that she can to be raising him, but she also wasn't prepared to be raising him, so she is trying her best. It's just like a very mixed bag, and I really like the way that they're able to kind of like show both perspectives of this. We could really fully understand Elio wants to get abducted by aliens because he believes that someone out there is somebody who will love him, and he just feels unloved, and he feels like because he is different that nobody really understands him, and his aunt, who is trying her best, just isn't quite there for him enough. So he feels very neglected. He wants to meet aliens because he thinks that they will love him and appreciate him and take him in as their own. And so he finally does get abducted, and it kind of sparks this really interesting part of his journey where he's going out to outer space, he's kind of making friends, he's meeting new people, and he's realizing that he kind of needs to put on a persona because they think that he's somebody who he's not. And so he's scared to be himself. He pretends to be the leader of Earth, and he's meeting all these different like diplomat type people, and he's trying to be very mature for his age, and he's struggling with it a lot. And something that's really interesting is he gets a clone of himself that gets sent back to his aunt, who is like raising him and trying to like take care of him, and he kind of realizes that like his aunt is kind of happy there with him, even though it's not actually him, it's a clone. So he's kind of seeing his life play out without him being there. And it gets into some very kind of dark themes with Elio kind of like feeling like this entire time he's felt neglected and that his aunt doesn't love him. And now he's seeing that his aunt is loving him unconditionally now that he's not there. And he kind of like feels very emotionally distraught. And it is very like hard. I was not expecting this movie to get as emotional as it did. And obviously he gets a tour of this like little outer space kind of like community. They call it Communiverse, and I think that it's a very interesting area and concept. It's kind of like explained to be almost like the UN of the outer space world because they have representatives from all these different planets here. And then we get introduced to the kind of villain of the movie, but not really. In fact, if you watch the movie Home, it very much reminded me of this villain situation where like they think that like all the aliens are very evil and villainous or whatever, but like in reality they just want to kind of like fit in, and they've always felt like outcasts and they don't really understand, but it's because their tradition and their family stuff, the villains in this movie, is to grow up and become warrior kings who have to be in these mech suits all the time because they're tough and they have these rough exteriors and they can't possibly let anybody see them soft and outside of their shell. And if you've seen the trailers, you'll see Elio ends up befriending one of them outside of their shell, and that's the prince of this alien nation. I can't remember the name of the villains right now, but Elio kind of becomes friends with them, and he's spending a lot of time with this Glorden space alien, and Glorden kind of makes Elio realize that his aunt really loves him because they're just having like conversations about their families together. And Elio mentions that like his aunt doesn't really want him because it wasn't a part of her plan, and she can't become an astronaut because of him, and like kind of like talking like, oh my god, she doesn't love me. And then Glorden's like, oh my god, so she's giving up her dreams so that she could be with you. That's so sweet. I wish somebody loved me like that. And oh my god, I just love how Pixar is able to put things into perspective because that was so good. And that like quick one-off line like instantly made Elio kind of like realize, oh my god, wait, things are going pretty good for me on Earth, and I've just kind of been taking them for granted. So overall, one of the main themes of this movie is that Elio is so busy thinking about how much like he's being neglected and how much like he really just wants to be abducted and he really wants to just like be somewhere in outer space, that he doesn't really realize and appreciate the family that he has here on Earth. And he kind of discovers that he's been taking for granted the fact that like she's a very hardworking woman and she has multiple lives, and it's being, you know, his mother figure and also continuing on with the life that she wanted to live, but now she's kind of like trying to balance it, and it's her first time living too, so she's not doing an incredible job. And it's so emotional. I really loved it. I was not expecting how emotional this film was. So that is one of the main like emotional through lines. It's just like Glorden having his loving parents and kind of like having this disconnect with his dad because his dad really wants him to be an evil bad guy, and Glorden's like, I want to play and go swimming, and I think that we should be able to show our soft exterior. So then we get to see another kind of family dynamic with like a father who really loves his son and doesn't know how to raise his son, and he's having a big disconnect. And Elio is having interactions with the dad and kind of being like, oh, well, yeah, you should just send them to boarding school because that'll solve all of your problems. And then he kind of realizes that like the parents that actually care are going to do whatever they can to kind of work things out with their kid. And we see the bond between the dad and Glorden being very, very strong and powerful. And it kind of makes Elio rethink like his relationship with his aunt, because like she's also trying her best. There's just like a disconnect and they really just need to communicate and solve their problems. And I love it. I love when they're able to do something like that in a movie where they have a character witnessing two other people's relationships and being able to put it into perspective with their own relationship with somebody and kind of like learn from that. And I think that this movie is just an incredible story overall, and it does a good job of teaching the importance of family. And you can't pick and choose your family, but you should love your family if you can. Obviously, it doesn't really apply for like, we're not going to get into that. This is a kids movie. We're going to continue on and talk about some of the other things I liked about this movie. I think I've already complimented it before, but I'm going to say it again. The animation style is so damn good. I absolutely love that. So fantastic. So well done. The score and soundtrack is pretty fun. I don't think it's going to be as memorable as anything like the Cars soundtrack, or I'm trying to think about another good one that Pixar has, because Pixar had another good one recently. Oh, Elemental. Elemental had a great soundtrack. I really loved Elemental's soundtrack. The comedy, for the most part, if you've seen the comedy in the trailers, it's pretty on par with that, where like Elio will say something like, wow, this is the most beautiful place I've ever seen. And they're like, really? This is the bathroom. And then different kind of like little jokes, one-off like that. There's a couple lines that Glorden says that absolutely got a great laugh out of me, but I loved that. And overall, I just think that this movie does a really good job of showcasing that like just because you're different doesn't mean you're alone, and just because your family is small, because like for Elio it's just him and his aunt, doesn't mean it's not something you should still cherish and really appreciate. Just never take the little things for granted, and that's something that Elio learns throughout this journey, and I think it's a beautiful lesson. The way that they showcase that lesson is incredible, and overall I really had a good time with this film. So I'm a big fan of Pixar. If I had to give this movie a rating on a scale of 1 to 100, I give this movie a solid 87. There were some heart-to-heart moments where Elio and Glorden were having conversations about their family life and talking about the way that life has just kind of been treating them and the way that they feel kind of neglected sometimes. And that one did really get to me. Like, Elio kind of explained that the reason he's out in outer space right now is because he doesn't feel loved. And Glorden is also having this conversation about how like he doesn't feel understood, and just that conversation between two people who feel so misunderstood and so alone and depressed, but they have each other now, is so adorable. Like, I genuinely think that that friendship was really fleshed out well, and I really enjoyed it. So yeah, so overall I give this movie a solid 87 out of 100. Did I already say that? I might have already said that. I might have actually already said a different number. 87 was the number we were rocking with. I liked it. I think that for the most part, one of the only like downsides of it that I had was the comedy not being that good, because the jokes did 100% feel kind of like childish. But that being said, I liked this movie. I liked what it had to say, and I think that it was a really good time at the theater. So yeah, that being said, that was it for this video, guys. Thank you guys so much for coming by and checking it out. I'm going to be ranking every single Pixar movie coming up this weekend. I'll probably be posting a video either on Saturday or Sunday, so stay tuned for that. There's 29 movies now. It's going to be a long one. I apologize. I like to yap a lot, so I'll try to keep that one close to 40 minutes, but it might go on for an hour. We don't know yet. We'll see. But yeah, that being said, that was it for this video, guys. Thank you guys so much for coming by and checking it out. I love and appreciate you guys so much for watching, and if you liked it, feel free to like and subscribe, and I'll hopefully see you guys in the next one. Peace out. Pow.